Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is Pabloon, aka Pabloon, and welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we're going to be featuring and telling the story of Erich Hartman, the most decorated fighter ace of World War II. We're going to be playing Enlisted, and I'm going to be teaching you guys how to be flying like a German fighter ace. We're going to take tips and tricks and use his tactics to become better at flying in this game, because it is quite hard. We're going to be featuring 109s, the G14 and the K4 to be specific, because that's what Erich Hartman really flew a lot of his sorties in. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this video, and let's start off here with Erich Hartman's biography and his life. After that, you're going to get tactics against enemy planes, and at last we're going to use some of his tactics and see how we can implement them into Enlisted ourselves. I hope you guys enjoy. Erich Hartman was born on April 19, 1922 in Weissach, Germany. He was drawn to aviation from a young age because his mother was a glider pilot and introduced him to flying, as he quickly developed a passion for it. Hartman joined the Luftwaffe in 1940. After extensive training, he was posted to Jagdgeschwader 52 on the Eastern Front in 1942, and we actually have this squadron in the game, and here's the logo, and you might recognize it if you played Germany in Enlisted. Hartman's early combat experiences were challenging. He faced mechanical issues and his initial flights were not successful. However, he quickly adapted and began to refine his flying and combat tactics. By the end of 1942, he had achieved his first aerial victory. Hartman's aggressive tactics and precise marksmanship soon set him apart. He specialized in close-range attacks, getting so close to his target before attacking that he could guarantee a hit, almost at least. He had a motto: see, decide, attack, break, which encapsulated his approach to combat. And we are going to revisit this approach or motto because it actually makes quite a lot of sense in terms of aerial combat in Enlisted as well. Hartman's reputation grew as his victory count increased. He earned the nickname the Black Devil of the South among Soviet pilots due to the black tulip design on the nose of his Bf-109. One of his most remarkable feats came on July 7th, 1943 during the Battle of Kursk, where he shot down 11 enemy aircraft in a single day. And by the end of this, Hartman had achieved 159 victories, so he was already tallying up quite a big score and making a name for himself. In 1944, it was a pretty significant year for Erich Hartman. He continued to demonstrate extraordinary skill and courage in numerous dogfights. On August 24th, 1944, he achieved his 300th aerial victory, making him one of the most successful fighter pilots in history. This incredible milestone earned him the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross, with oak leaves, swords, and diamonds, Germany's highest military decoration at the time. Despite his successes, Hartman faced many challenges. He was forced to crash land his aircraft 16 times due to mechanical failures or damage from enemy debris. It could be 50 cals as well, you know, there's a lot of things trying to shoot you down in the sky in World War II. However, he was never shot down by enemy action. His ability to survive these incidents is a testament to his flying skills and quick thinking under pressure. Making the right decision in an aircraft that's flying 300 to 400 miles an hour is definitely difficult because you gotta also think about the bodily pressure. We see G-forces on our characters in Enlisted, but of course you can't encapsulate the real feeling. And making the right decisions there is what makes a good fighter pilot. After the war, Hartman was captured by Soviet forces and he actually spent 10 years in a Soviet gulag. And it was under very harsh conditions. They also accused him of war crimes, but these charges were widely regarded as politically motivated. And Hartman maintained his innocence and endured the hardships until he was released in 1955, 10 years later following West Germany's negotiation for the release of prisoners. Upon his return to Germany, he joined the newly established West German Air Force, becoming the first Geschwaderkommodor of Jagdgeschwader 71, Richthofen, named after the legendary Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron from World War I. He played a significant role in training the next generation of German pilots and was highly respected for his expertise and leadership. Erich Hartman retired from the military in 1970. leaving behind a legacy as the most successful fighter race in the history of aerial warfare. His total of 352 confirmed aerial victories remains unmatched, even to this day. Hartmann's story is not only one of exceptional skill, but also perseverance and dedication to his craft. So now that we know the story of Erich Hartman, we're going to be taking a look at the planes he flew in and the planes he would be facing. Now, I'm not going to include the stuff like the Corsair, because he would not have been facing Corsairs in the battles over Europe. But if I am going to put a comment on it, I would say that the Corsair is quite a powerful turn fighter, and again, you should pretty much avoid fighting that thing, just like the Spitfire, at least in my opinion. But let's talk about the fighters that he flew in. The G6, the G14, and the K4 were Erich Hartmann's most used fighters, and the G6 and the G14, also known as the Gustavs, were some of the most widely used variants of the Bf-109 series. The Bf-109 G6 was introduced in 1942, and it featured a more powerful Daimler-Benz engine. It had a top speed of 386 miles per hour, and it had 20mm cannons, and two 13mm machine guns, basically a 50 cal. It gave it pretty good firepower, but it also had an increased weight, which did affect its agility. Now the G14 is the one that we have been flying in this video. It has two underwing 30mm cannons, and it also gets two 20mm plus two 13mm. So it's an all-out gun machine, no bombs, and he also did use that quite a bit. Next up, we have the K4. This is the latest introduction and the last introduction in the Bf-109 series. It was the final production version, and it features a Daimler-Benz 605D engine with water methanol injection, bro. Like, yeah, Mr. White, let's cook, bro. Allowing to achieve speeds of up to 452 miles per hour at high altitudes. The K4 was heavily armed with a 30mm Mk108 machine cannon, 108 cannon, and two 13mm. This version was designed to counter the high-flying Allied bombers and long-range escorts. The Bf-109 and Erich Hartmann could face the Spitfire, and the Spitfire is one of the most well-known fighters of World War II. We don't have the Mark 9, which is one of the better versions that the G6 would be facing. We actually only have the Mark 5, but it's still a very, very dangerous foe nonetheless. It has a pretty high top speed comparable to the G6, so you have to be really careful turn fighting with this thing. Because of its elliptical wings, it gives it just superior turning capabilities, and dogfighting with this thing in a turn pilot is going to be a true test of your pilot skill. Because the Bf-109 is not meant to win that type of fight. To counter these guys, you just have to stay high and hope that your altitude and your speed is going to make you survive. If you do get into a turn fight with them, I suggest trying to bait them into chasing you into the sky, gaining altitude, because you have a better climbing ability than the Spitfire does. So really only climbing and evading is your best ability. The P-51 Mustang was a formidable opponent for the Bf-109s. It had a top speed of 437 miles per hour. It could escort bombers deep into enemy territory, thanks to its long range. The Merlin engine and excellent maneuverability made it a challenging foe for the Bf-109 pilots. The K4 could compete in terms of speed, but the Mustang's versatility and endurance often gave it the edge. So the Mustangs, they're a whole different beast. If they allow their engine to go at max power, which most pilots will, you got yourself a speedy and maneuverable opponent. My best bet is actually to go for the turn fight with them, because you're kind of comparable in these settings. But do be wary though, if you continue to turn fight with them, he will gain on you. Your real big advantage is your engine is not going to overheat, so you can keep it at a max for a long time, whereas if you keep him in that, he could burn off his engine. The best way to deal with the Mustang is by trying to cut off his turns, basically trying to go up and over, and that is going to be my best tip for dealing with those guys. Now for the Soviet fighters, we have the Yak-3. The Yak-3 was a significant threat because it was light, fast, and highly maneuverable with a top speed of 407 miles per hour. Its agility at low altitudes made it perfectly effective in dogfights. The 109G series had the advantage in terms of speed and climb rate, but the Yak-3's handling characteristics made it a tough opponent in close combat. So again, just like the Spitfire, don't take the turn fights and do not go low altitude with this thing. The 109s are energy fighters and they excel at higher altitudes, so stay there. And if you're going to be fighting a Yak-3, I would suggest going for boom and zoom tactics. In and out, speeding away, and trying to climb up to gain, another attacking position. For the LA-7s, your best bet is to try to dogfight them, because they are really fast and they can outturn you as well. But one thing you do have an advantage of is, again, your climb rate. So what's the moral of this story for fighting other planes in this plane, the BF-109s? Well, your engine is powerful, you have good climb rate, and you're not a turn fighter. But if you do the boom and zoom tactics, you can really get some nasty results. And of course, fighting bombers is just going to be an amazing feeling. I mean, bomber hunting is always fun. Okay, so now I want to talk about some of the strategies that Erich Hartman would be employing and some of those tactics that you can use in Enlisted. So you get something out of this, and it's just not just a great story about a cool man. I mean, you can also just take that. And leave a like if you enjoyed this, guys, by the way. So he employed a stalk and ambush strategy, preferring to ambush his enemies rather than engage them in prolonged dogfights, which is definitely good for a BF-109. Those hit and runs, not sticking around for the turn fight. He would use the element of surprise to get close enough before attacking, and often catching people off guard. And to be honest, because Enlisted is in first person, it's very much how it is also in Enlisted, and it's kind of true to real life in that sense, that you don't really get a chance if you're not aware of your target or aware of the enemy. He was, like I said, famous for those close range engagements, and he had a tactic called see, decide, attack, break. So you see your enemy, you decide if it's worth your life or your plane to do this. So in Enlisted, your tickets, if you're attacking. Let's say it's a Mustang who is about 400 meters above you. He hasn't seen you, you're behind him, but you lose a ton of engine power. If you then miss your shot, he has the advantage on you. If he spots you on your way up, you're gone. But if you see, on the other hand, somebody who is low and slow and maybe in the middle of a dogfight, or if the fight looks advantageous to you, that's when you decide to do it. The decide, attack, break is just super important and smart, to get away as fast as possible. As soon as you've done your attack, if you've clipped their wing, if you hit their fuel or something, you saw some damage on their plane, there's no reason to keep fighting, just leave. I mean, sure, somebody can take your kill, but it's a video game, so that can happen, right? He avoided twisting and turning engagements, which made him, way more vulnerable. Instead, he saw quick attacks, surprise attacks. So again, this goes back to what I'm saying. You don't want to be turn fighting Spitfires, Mustangs, and sometimes even P-47s can be a trouble, because P-47s they're good at turning and they're fast, and for some reason they are just really maneuverable. You would think you can outturn a P-47, but if they have dropped all their payload, they can be quite difficult to deal with. So Hartmann would often go on free hunt missions, and that's not really a tactic you can use in Enlisted, but I'm gonna tell you something right now. If you don't know how fast you can grind XP by taking out bomber squads or paratrooper planes, well, let me tell you right now. When I was shooting down those paratrooper planes, I got the whole squad as well, and it is probably one of the most infuriating things for one of the guys in those paratrooper planes, and boy oh boy does it feel good. So Hartmann teaches us to go on free hunt missions. I translate that to, you should go hunt paratrooper planes, bomber squadrons. It helps your team, and it's also super easy XP. So his aircraft was painted with a black tulip, which of course gave him a recognizable symbol. And this black tulip here, it would actually reduce his kill rate, because the Soviet pilots would see it and they would be like, oh shit, that's Erich Hartman. And they wouldn't go for a fight with him, even if it seemed like they had an advantage. So sometimes he would loan this black tulip to younger, inexperienced pilots so they could gain the experience. His high aggression and precision were key to his success, and he was known for his ability to shoot down enemy aircraft with minimal warning. often causing damage before they even saw he was there. Alright friends, well that is pretty much it for Erich Hartmann's story and what we can learn from him. The final things here are my perks in the setup I run. So for the K4 right here, we actually have a elite soldier. I'm actually unsure if I get enough perks from running this guy, but yeah, I changed his name to this. He's not called Erich Hartman in-game, that's not his name. But if I do run a setup on any pilot, I always go for this. In this case, I can't really get much else. I wouldn't have enough to get this one or this one in the green and red tree. So I always go for detection range. This is what I could get. And this is just going to help you overall. The reason this is the best is because if you're good enough and you know your plane and your guns well, you can still hit people without having the reticle when you're blacking out. Because the only thing you lose in a blackout is some maneuverability if it's a complete blackout and your reticle for aiming. This thing, it's nice to have effective head swinging during sharp maneuvers. It's more like a rear gunner skill, to be honest, because yeah, it's a whole different thing, but the best skill, this is what it is, guys. And take some peripheral if you can. And then I just went full in on flight stamina, because flight stamina is really nice to have. For the G14 here, I ran the premium one, but this goes for the G6, the K4, the G10, even the lower tier BF 109s, but they are very similar once you get up to these tiers. The G series was the most produced one. And here we have the 14, like I said, and we are running these skills. Now, we get a ton of perks on this guy, so I went on all these, but I think this is because he's a premium pilot. So if you can't do this, again, just go for detection range. But here we have the whole 9 yards, and it's fun. It's very fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I put a lot of effort into this. I hope you want to see more of it, because I really do enjoy making them. We could talk about Dick Bong, the American P-38 legend. We could talk about Dick Best. There's a lot of good American pilots. I want to talk about Soviet pilots as well, and some Japanese pilots. But yeah, so far we took a look at Erich Hartman here, and I'm going to be seeing you guys in a lot more Enlisted content. So stay tuned. My name is WWII, aka Pabloon, and I am signing out.